All right, excellent. G'day Amsterdam, my name's Simeon Griggs. I'm a solution engineer and hello internet as well to everybody on the stream. I'm a solution engineer at Sanity.io and I'm really excited to give you this talk today, but I must admit I do need a couple of minutes of your time up front. You see, today you're all going to be present for me to fulfill a lifelong dream. I've got this fascination with conference speaker photos. So this is my first big talk, and you know, the person standing there and they've got the headset mic on, sort of hands open like this. And today could be my day. And depending on how this talk goes, I might never get this chance again. So I really need your support in this, and I need some help. And you know, I don't need to describe those photos. I mean, this is what I'm going for, right? So this is just wanted to set the scene. You know, thought leadership. You know, really just big picture ideas, big thinkers. That's what I'm going for. So I have two goals in the next 24 minutes and 12 seconds. One, I'm going to talk to you about localization. Two, I'm going to make sure I leave with a cool new photo that's going to just put my social media profile through the roof. So, localization in the real world. This is where I've got a bit of a problem, right? So I'm very excited about this talk, but especially given the last two talks we've just heard, kind of sounds a bit lame. You know, I'm talking about the real world, and they're talking about like the next world. They're talking about the future, and like my ideas, they might just not seem as thought leadery, right? So, and those two last talks, they did very well to lean away from buzzwords. But anyone who knows me knows that I lean into buzzwords. So I want the backdrop of my photo to be something, you know, really just profound. If this is in the background, it's going to mean something, or, you know, I mean, cryptocurrency is a good one too, right? So I need you to vote. Shout it out. I mean, we've all been locked up for 2 years. How many opportunities have you had to sit in a room of people and yell the word metaverse? You know, you've been deprived of these opportunities. So on the count of three, vote for cryptocurrency or metaverse with your voice. 1, 2, 3. Metaverse. Oh, metaverse, huge over the top. If you want to come and tell me at the booth later why cryptocurrency is better than metaverse, you'll get a hoodie. Now, photographers at the ready. Thank you. Now, let's get on with the, yeah, there we go. All right, localization of the real world. Let's get on with it. I am Simeon Griggs from Sanity.io. What's Sanity.io? It's that thing you hear about on Syntax FM every other week. It is the best platform in the world for structuring and querying content. It's so flexible that if you want to make a validation rule on a document is that you have to solve the day's Wordle, that is something that you can do in Sanity. I don't know why you would, but you can. But if you look at any of our website or materials, we're going to say this: content is data. Take a breath. Content is data. What does content as data mean? So content is not presentation. Content is not a web page. This is a web page. You've probably built something like this in the past. Now, back in the old days, before I came to Sanity, I was slinging WordPress websites, like many of you might have. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. But if I was asked to model the content for this page, I'd probably say, well, you know, I've got a title there, and I've got, you know, some HTML there in the bottom, and maybe I've got like a sidebar. And so if I was asked to describe the content model of this page, I'd say, well, this is a page. And I would make that as a page. And the other lessons might be like child pages of that page. But this is not a page. So content as data, that's content as presentation. Content as data, oh yeah, also now it's like Gutenblocks or something. I don't know, I moved on. But this website is more than just HTML. It's more than just its presentation. What if this lesson ends up in a PDF? What if this presenter profile gets attached to an event? Well, we want our content to outlive this web page at this moment in time. And so if we look at the disparate pieces of content, and this is very much like we heard about with Storyblock and with bit.dev, you want to isolate things into their domain, and this pairs really nicely. So on that page, we've got a lesson, we've got a label, we've got a presenter, we've got a course, we've got language data, and if we can pull those into their disparate pieces, then we can model content in a way that's going to outlive this web page at this moment in time. This is really important, particularly when it comes to localization. So that's what we've got in the top right-hand corner there, language data. And that's important because when we model content as individual pieces of data in its own domain, that can even affect how we localize it. Localizing is not fun. I know it's difficult to do, but just some examples here. A presenter has a name and a title and a photo. Now, two of those things are going to be international. My name's not going to change in any language, and my photo isn't either. But here, we would internationalize just that string of text, where on a lesson, everything here is text. So it doesn't make sense to internationalize each one of these in with this mega document with a million languages in it. We can internationalize each version of the document. So this is why we don't overly prescribe a single internationalization or localization strategy, because it can be different depending on the piece of data that you're modeling. This is what localization looks like in Sanity. We don't have like a dashboard or a language module that you would download. You would use JavaScript. You define all of your schemas in JavaScript. And when you're working with code like this, it means that we can have a single languages file like this that will inform our Sanity schema, but also our Sanity plugins, and also translation services, and also like our routes on our front end, or wherever else that language data needs to go. So let's have a demo of this. And a lot of people have said they wouldn't do live demos, and it made me worry that for some reason I decided to do one. So here we see our presenter records. And I've got, here's my presenter that was running that course there. At the moment, I only have English and Norwegian in here. So I'll go back over to my languages file, and let's add Dutch. And the studio should recompile, and it does. So now I can, so now just updating that there has updated our schema. We can see now I've got Dutch language options. I've got Norwegian text, which I can hide away because jeg ikke snakker norsk. If you come to Sanity, you'll learn some Norwegian, or at least how to say you don't speak Norwegian. So, so I can translate this now because the Google Translate plugin has been up to date, and I'm just going to, was that right? Can I get, yes? Okay, excellent. And I'll translate this too because I don't trust Google Translate all the time, but I'm going to do this, and I'm not sure if anybody else noticed, but there's somebody else in the studio here with me. I think, huh. That's some thought leadership if I ever saw it. So that's excellent. We've got some collaborative features there. I'm just wondering, for some reason, why is that still uploading there? This is very distracting. Who did this? I have, oh, there we go. I've got Hida. Come and say hello at the booth as well. Joining me here today. He has gone in and just if you'll excuse me for a moment here, I just need to crop this in just while I said you needed to just indulge me for a moment during this talk. Yeah, that's better. All right, anyway. Sorry, I just had to do that while I was there. Let's get back on topic. Localization in the real world. So that hopefully set the scene of localization, insanity, and all of that. I'm going to speak about what I've seen in the real world. I'm first going to talk about how not to do it. Again, going back to my bad old days of consultancy, and certainly with WordPress. I'm going to speak about some of the things we've seen go into production with some amazing brands that we get to work with at Sanity. But just first, I'd like to put you in a picture of how not to do it, and this is a real story, I promise you. Back to my old days, not Sanity related. We're working for a very well-funded startup, and the global website we weren't allowed to touch, but it was sending traffic to the local website. Now, the global website would redirect you without your consent, based on your browser's language, to pages that didn't exist on the local website. That was the localization strategy. But we weren't allowed to change the global website, but for some reason we were allowed to touch the DNS. So we wrote an edge worker written in Rust, which would fetch both pages, check if it was going to 404 or not. And if it did, then we'd stitch together the HTML from both of those requests to take the header and the footer of the local website, and then take the body of the US website to effectively localize that page on demand and deliver that to the browser. And then we tried to do the responsible thing by letting you set a cookie that would go back. So if you wanted to use the global website, you could do that. All of that is not how it should be done. If you have to draw a diagram that looks like that, you're going down the wrong way. But that was just, there was no cohesive effort. And when it needs conceptual thinking from the top. It needs you to be thinking about the content model from the very beginning. Oh, something I can't mention. I can't mention any of the company names. So you're going to have to guess. I might leave some clues. Internet-connected speaker company. I think key value translations is one of the most popular ways to do that, and typically you'll see that in JSON files. But that's a content structure that you can create. So like that label that I showed in the course demo there beforehand has like an array full of these key value pairs. So you can do this localization strategy inside of a content management system. It doesn't just have to be in JSON. Also, fitness brand. Anyone here from Germany? I wonder who it could be. Well, that sort of lets you half in who it might be. I showed the languages file before. Their concept goes a step higher to define markets, because in the example I showed before, there is always a local language version of the content. But in this instance, they needed to have completely separate content per market and then languages within those markets. So it sort of extrapolates out one step. They have 6 markets at the moment. Using this setup, they're going to move on to another 22 in the next few weeks. But essentially, this means that you can drive every market's website out of the same data set, and they all have access to the same schema, or like we saw with, again, Bit and Storybook before, the same components, but specific to your market. And then once you have documents with that user's own market, those things can inform user permissions as well. So they have the concept of 4 different user roles inside of each market. So perhaps a Canadian author only sees the Canadian content. And again, this is all driven from one studio because it's all configured in code, as I saw before there. This multinational conglomerate. If anyone washed their hair this morning, might be familiar with this brand. They have a very similar concept as well, with markets and languages together. But with only content in those regions, but then they're also able to have globally translated content at the same time. And so teams here are able to work on their own content, but any time, so you can see here there's a mix. This is the Sanity studio, by the way, if I didn't introduce that properly before. They have, I think this multinational conglomerate have around 70-something websites, all driven out of the one Sanity project, all market-specific and language-specific inside of this one project. But then also have an idea of global content that would contain those translations as well. And every market can then reach across market to pull content into their own market as well. I'm really wearing out the word market there at the minute. Also, music streaming company. Is anyone here from Sweden? I wonder who it could be. Really impressive. I think this was one of the instances where Sanity is this amazing tool set that we put in the hands of people, and at times we can't quite believe what people are able to do with it. That's how flexible it is, and how little we tell you how you must do things. They're able to operate almost 280 different regions worth of content, 22 unique languages. But their idea of markets is actually custom. A market is a document type. An author can create a market so that you can write a single line of text, which then only gets displayed to people speak a certain language that are in a certain country where a certain plan is available. So if you've had complex business logic like this before, you can see how important that could be to be able to not only have internationalization and localization as a strategy, but personalization at the same time. There's a lot going on in this picture. Let's go step by step. Part of their strategy as well is not only to have individual sets of documents or individual sets of schema, as I've shown before, but also this, where you can author one content that contains multiple markets or multiple languages worth of content in the same document. So the editor doesn't have to leave this experience. And I just realized I bailed on my live demo earlier before I showed how to query for this data, and I'm going to go back and do it. So when you write data like this, because the rich text editor of Sanity, it's not storing markup, it's not storing HTML, it's not storing Markdown, it's an array of objects essentially underneath. That means you can query against that. So if you're looking at the US version of the page, you will only extract US-specific content. By the same token, if you are looking at the Norwegian version of the page, you get only the Norwegian content. And all of this is done without overfetching, or without fetching everything and then filtering it down to what you need at that point in time. But that's done at the time of query, because everything is stored as data. So hopefully with all of that, there's an understanding of just how important it is to have content as data. I'm going to go back to this query here, because this is what I meant to show, because I felt like this was kind of impressive, right? So let's go and get all of the presenters that are currently here today. And that's all the data, but that's overfetching, right? We could go and query all of this. That's Grok, by the way. I'm not sure, we could do a whole thing on that. Sanity has its own query language. It has GraphQL as well, for those that love that, but we do have our own query language where we can do some pretty fancy things like this. So let's just get the name and the title of every presenter. A higher desk for some speakers next year, feedback. Sorry, that could have waited till later. So then now I'm still overfetching. I'm still getting everything here, right? So let's shape this content at the time of query and say, well, I am only interested at the moment in the Dutch title. And I can say that specifically, but now this is hard-coded. I've got no fallbacks. So now I'm getting a lot of empty data just because only myself have that at the moment. But I can put a variable, that's what they're called, into here. Now I've got this again. It's a bit more flexible because I can pass this variable in from a cookie, from a request, from a local storage, from whatever I need to. But we can keep doing better as well because that fallback exists, right? So we have a function in Grok called coalesce, which means return me the first thing that returns true. So I shouldn't talk and type, base language. I have my variables down the bottom there, but again, that could come from a request, from a cookie setting or whatever. So this should return me the first thing that returns true. So now I am getting filtered data with no overfetching based on variables that I know at the time that the query needs to be performed. So this is the benefit, the whole story should come full circle then. If we structure everything as data, then we can query it as data, and we can make sure that we never have to overfetch for anything but get what is just needful at that moment. I shouldn't have walked away from the screen there either. So, summary. I could have talked way slower. One, content is data. We say that all the time. Hopefully you've got a bit of an idea on what that means. Two, internationalize content by its domain. That is, consider, does this document need language-specific versions? Does it need market-specific versions? Does it just need a few language-specific fields? Because that can really change how you structure that piece of schema at that point in time and can greatly simplify the way that you perform that content authoring experience. But also, lastly, localize like you should, work how you need. I need a fourth point, work with a copywriter or something, because this is still a mouthful. I really tried to workshop this into something a bit more succinct, but localize how you should. As shown in the examples there, that's just 4 companies that I was able to, 4 leading global brands, that I was able to speak with recently about how they're using Sanity so they could reflect that back to us. And each one of them is working how they need to work, how they're most comfortable working. They didn't need to bend into the way that we would structure data. Sanity gives you that open platform so you can create the experience that makes sense to you. So, closing. Sanity.io/reactlive. If you haven't yet signed up for Sanity, please do so at this link. You'll get a free boosted plan. Sanity's free tier is very generous already, but it is even generouser if you sign up at this link. Also, too, sanity.io/careers. If you too would like to work with leading global brands, I really need a colleague. And I don't care how desperate that sounds, but I'm on calls all the time, and it's super fun. It's just solving problems every day with the world's most fun tools. It's Candyland. But come and sign up. Come and talk to me. Come and do something. And also, thank you. Thanks everyone listening, but also too, thank you to. Just a minute. Sorry, I know that's awkward. And now I've drawn attention to you. It's even more awkward. Just wanted to say thank you not only to everybody here, but also to everybody that makes Sanity. I get to stand up on stage here and make a fool of myself, but that's because I work with the kindest, most talented and creative team in the whole world that make this product, which I just, like 9 months ago, I was having fun using as a customer, and now I get to stand here and it's pretty wild, so thanks.